Welcome to the channel. I did a video recently where I put a step on my 1984 CJ7, and when I was editing that video I noticed how bad the door entry guard looks. It's the original guard and it's turned brown, has some really bad cracks on it, and this paint is original, so it's oxidized and it has a lot of chips in it, so it definitely doesn't look perfect, but this guard looks pretty bad. So if I get the guard off and get a new guard on, I think it will be an improvement. I've already taken the guard off the passenger side, so I've got some experience on taking the guard off. And I first tried using alcohol, then I used a solvent, Goo Gone. Neither one of those things took it off. It might take it off yours because maybe yours hasn't been on there for almost 40 years like mine has, but those things did not work. So what I did was I bought an eraser wheel, and these are pretty inexpensive. There's a lot of different manufacturers for these wheels, and it came in two parts. One, the wheel that's got a stud on it, and then you have to screw this on kind of your bit for your drill. And the downside of it not being one piece is that I found that it tries to back off while you're working it, so you really need to tighten it on there really well so it doesn't come off. So eraser wheel. And obviously you need a drill for that. So I have a drill and I have two batteries because it takes a little bit of work. And when I took the one off on the passenger side, I definitely needed two charged batteries. I still will use the alcohol and the Goo Gone at the end just to get the last bit of adhesive off. But mainly I will be using the eraser wheel. Once we get it off, then I have a XPEL door sill guard. Never used this before. I don't know how it's going to go or how long it will last. I don't expect it to be as durable as what the factory was, because I mean that obviously stayed on for almost 40 years. It's 1984 CJ7, and when I took it off on the passenger side it was a ton of work to get it off. I've got some water. They say, according to the instructions on door sill, XPEL door sill, they sell solution, a slip solution, and you can find different slip solutions online, or you can make your own. So say on the package that if you make your own slip solution, you can use a quart of water and about 3 or 4 drops of just regular dish soap. So that's what I've done here. Also have a squeegee to get all the air out when I put the new seal on. And the seal came in 60 inches on a roll, and I need about 29 inches for each side. And it's I think 2 3/4 inches wide, and my original seal was 2 inches wide. So I had to cut it, and man, I'm telling you, I'm not a great crafts person, and this feels like a crafts project. When I usually wrap one present a year at Christmas, and my package looks like a 4-year-old wrapped it when I'm done. So I didn't cut the best line on this, and maybe I should have just left it on the original width instead of trying to cut it. But I wanted to have it like the factory. The other things I have here, so when I use the Goo Gone, some chemical gloves, this eraser wheel is going to have a lot of eraser dust, and it's going to get on your floor, and it's going to get a little bit inside the compartment of the Jeep as well. But that's pretty easy to vacuum up. But you should wear a dust mask. Safety glasses. And I'm going to use a permanent marker to mark where the beginning and end of the original entry guard is on the Jeep, just so I can kind of put it back in the same location. All right, so this is all our stuff. I think I've covered everything that's here. So now it's time to pull the Jeep in and we'll get started. This is what the entry sill looks like. Pretty bad. I'd just gotten so used to it that I didn't even pay attention to it anymore until I was looking at it in the video. So we can make that look better. I'll show you what the other side looks like. So here's the other side. Just getting it off looks a lot better than it did. The instructions, or actually it says it right on the eraser, max 4,000 RPMs. I don't know how many RPMs this drill is, but it goes up to over 20 for drilling. So I'm gonna put it at 12, and that seemed to work pretty good when I took it off the passenger side. I forgot I did want to mark on the inside of the tub where it begins and ends. You want to apply some pressure, but not too much. And you'll see that the eraser itself will transfer onto the adhesive, what adhesive is left. But you can keep working on it and you'll get that off. You can see little stubborn spots that now the eraser has transferred onto the adhesive that's still left on here. And on the other side, I was able to get it off by kind of angling the eraser at these locations and also scraping and using alcohol or Goo Gone. But it does a pretty good job. So we'll get down here and get this bigger part next. While my battery is charging for my drill, I'm going to put some Goo Gone on here and let it soak in. And, you know, there's no question that there's a solvent that would take this off in a hurry. And I probably have some stripper at the house here that would do that. But this paint is almost 40 years old, and it is kind of delicate, to say the least. Remember, get the hard part done. So the only part that I'm really concerned about is there is a chip right here, and I'm afraid that's going to leave a little pocket of air. And these bad parts on the paint, they're below where the guard is going to go. And so it's kind of interesting to see that the original guard protected all this. This right here is outside the guard. Guard ended right here. And then this is outside the guard. The guard ends up here. And then over here, the guard ended here. And then you have this up here. So the guard really did a great job. Kind of wish the whole Jeep was wrapped in it. But so now I just need to clean this mess up before I start to put the new guard on. Okay, the instructions with the guard said to spray the sill with alcohol and wipe it down with a microcloth. Now we're going to spray the sill with slip solution, which is just water and a couple of drops of dish soap. Here comes the scary part, the part that really freaks me out, is getting it on here and not messing up. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to peel it off, and they say spray the slip solution on the adhesive. If I can get it separated. absolutely nerve-wracking, let me tell you. This is not my cup of tea. Remember, this is the guy that can't wrap a Christmas present to save his life. Definitely got some bubbles in here. All right, I didn't get this part on camera, but I backed it out of the garage, one, so I'd have better light, and then to get some sun on it and see if I could get some of the bubbles out. And it still has some small bubbles in it. But from what I understand is that the small ones should evaporate because it's not just air, it's the slip solution. So it's actually water underneath the little bubbles or in the bubbles. So supposedly when it gets warm, it should evaporate. If the bubble is really big, you can poke a small hole in it with a pin or an X-Acto knife and then push the water out. But for now, I'm just going to leave it alone. See if the small bubbles work their way out, evaporate as it gets warm. I'm not going to lie, that was hard. I mean, it's one of the harder things that I've done. And I just don't have the knack for those kind of crafty things. And that's what it felt like, a crafts project. I have some bubbles in there. They're not huge, and the small ones are supposed to come out when it gets warm. It'll evaporate because it's the slip solution that's in there. It's not just air. So I'm not going to mess with it anymore right now and just let it go and see what happens with it. You might be saying to yourself, this is kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, because there's obviously, really bad scratches just underneath the door seal and around the door seal. But I think this does look better. It's the original paint. I've never wanted to get it painted, even though I have thought about it, but just decided not to. That it's kind of nice to have something that's this old that still has the original paint on it. So definitely the paint's not perfect. And the seal, even though not perfect, was in really good shape after you got the old guard off. And that was some work getting the guard off. And I do want to mention that when I first tried to get the guard off on the passenger side, I did try heating it with a heat gun on a really low setting. But because the paint is so old, I didn't want the temperature very high on the heat gun. So I was pretty cautious with it, and it really didn't help. So the only thing that really got it off was the eraser. And it's kind of messy, and it took some work, but it did get it off. But I mean, that stuff's been on there for 40 years. So anything that's in place for 40 years is going to be hard to get off. But I didn't show it, but after I got it on and realized I had quite a few bubbles in there, I backed it out so I would be in the sun with a little better view of it, and hopefully get some heat on it with the sun and see if that helped with the bubbles. And the whole project drove me to drink, so I had to have a beer after this was over. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was not easy. For me, it was difficult. I think for a lot of people, it probably would be easy. I think one thing that makes it more difficult than a lot of door seals is that a lot of door seals are flat. And with this door seal, you have the top part that's flat and then it goes down. So it's really difficult to get that done without getting wrinkles in it and bubbles. And I think maybe a professional would put a small slit in it at a certain place to make it be able to fold down better, but I didn't know where to do that, so I didn't even try it. So I think it does look better. You look at the before pictures and the after pictures. The old guard was all cracked up and so yellow. So I think it's an improvement. And for me, I think it looks better. So I'm happy with it. And I'll soon forget how much hard work I put into it. I do tell you in the video for this company that makes this seal that after you put the guard on, to put a spray alcohol around the edges to help with the adhesive seal. So I did that. I don't quite understand it, but I did it. So I got it done. It was hard. You could probably do a lot better job than I did. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.